Introducing Xcredi LP staking from industry-leading RWA loan collateralization platform Credify. Earn 10% cashback in USDT after 90 days, with more rewards coming soon for Xcredi holders. Visit v2.credify.finance.
Hey legends, how are we doing? Good afternoon. BC Ridgefield here, coming to you live from London. It's just gone a couple of minutes past midday, making it a few minutes past 1100 UTC. A really big shout out to everybody that is joining the stream live today, as well as everybody else that is joining us here and watching it on recording. So, big day today. We actually switched our focus on Monday away from our usual kind of education focused live stream, which is normally kind of held around Bitcoin. We're going to start with Bitcoin again today, but what we actually did on Monday was really dive into some alts, and some of those alt plays have really started to play out quite well. So not a case of getting kudos for that, right? I think a lot of the plays at the moment are very much about finding entries when we're in this beautiful uptrend, like we can see when I'm going to share the charts with you in a moment. But I want to give a very special mention to our partners, Bitget, who without their sponsorship wouldn't make it as easy for us to bring you this free content as we do pretty much every single day. So if you are interested at the moment, they are running an amazing offer, which you can see on your screen. Sign up, use the ref link, 100 USDT deposited, and you get $20 USDT. Now, that is completely withdrawable. It's not one of these things where it's in tokens, this, that, or the other. It is $20 of hard digital tether currency in your wallet, ready for you to spend. So you can find the link down in the description. Make sure you use the link or you won't get the discount. So where does that leave us at the moment? Well, what we can see here is we have the 4-hour chart up here on Bitcoin. Now, just to give you a little bit of context here, the reason we were so expecting this beautiful up move that we've got here, and what I've done is I've left a couple of things on here that I think are really, really, really key to kind of understanding liquidity. So let me just kind of move this back for a minute. So we can see this nice and clear. So what are the purple boxes? Well, the purple boxes are gap inversions, okay? Burned as well. Hello, mate. Great to see you here, as well as everybody else in the chat. Apologies if I have missed any of your hellos. Good afternoons, good mornings, wherever you are in the world. It is brilliant to have you here with us. So what does this all mean? Well, quite simply, this was the order block that was a real key point of interest for me. So what are we looking to do with order blocks? We're looking for singular or consecutive down close candles. So your bearish candles, these will probably be red on your chart or whatever color they are. We are looking for singular ones of those, or if they're consecutive, we allow for both. I personally favor my bullish order blocks from the top of the body down to the bottom of the lowest wick, okay? But I draw them on as just a black line. I don't like too many boxes, especially when I am so focused on gaps. But look at this, right? Look when we get this close above. Yes, it's a minimal close, but look how this area offers this kind of support and resistance flip, right? What you want to see with these is you want to see this strong move away. And then when it gets retested, you want to see these wicks kind of diving down into it, showing you the buyers are here, right? Now, the reason I was so interested in this one is we didn't retest it. Well, what you notice with this one, price came up, we got that beautiful retest. Look at the springboard, the catalyst that made. In doing so, we flew through this one, right? So when we reacted at it here, we had a nice bullish reaction, couldn't overcome this gap. That's not a problem. You've got to remember there's a lot of conditions in these markets that will make people, what's the right word? Kind of speculative, or maybe kind of not really kind of dive into it too much. I saw a brilliant post from a Twitter and YouTube personality called Cold Blood Schiller. You know, don't know them personally, have always admired their content that they put out, and just really struck a chord with me this morning. They just said, stop thinking the election's going to crash the market. Stop thinking of every catalyst in the world that's making you not invest in these markets. And this isn't financial advice. I'm not telling you to go out and be careless with your money in any way, shape or form. But what I am saying is sometimes we're all kind of culpable of it, and especially in the kind of earlier stages of trading, right? Which is, you're always kind of focused on it's that loss aversion, okay? You know, my good friend Jimmy, your NLP coach, will talk about this all the time, and his shows are brilliant for that psychology element. You know, he's a registered NLP psychologist, right? So And he will say this, your fear of losing is greater than your drive to win. And that's the problem in the market sometimes. And then you get people making all kind of mistakes, like basically just getting in too high. Absolutely, big shout out for this dude as well. Like I say, I really don't know him. I don't even think he follows me, but I certainly follow his content. Always good to give some kudos and a shout out to some really, really good traders out there. And his content has always kind of stood out to me. So just looking at this here, we just want to keep the thought process simple, right? So really today, what we're going to do is we're going to fly through. We've got alt request Wednesday, so we're going to dive into those charts. I've got a list of the ones that we went through on Monday, so we can have a look and see if what we were looking at kind of bared fruit. Now, I mean, I say that I've got this list somewhere, but basically I think what I've done is just chucked one of these post-it notes in the bin. So I will potentially try and recover that if it's at all possible. If not, then I'm pretty sure we can start working through some others and take a look at those as well. I know Injective is one that we really want to kind of take a look at as well. So now that's out of the way, where are we? Well, quite simply, these bearish gaps here, you see this in a purple box. Now that was they're always gray on my charts, whether they're bullish or bearish, because it sits nicely in the background. It doesn't kind of, it's not too sensory. When I really started kind of taking this incredibly seriously, probably 5, 6, maybe even 7 years ago, I really knew that I had to work on myself and my character traits to be successful over the long term. I found that I was getting triggered quite a lot when I was swing trading. I was getting up in the middle of the night to check positions. And one of the really silly but good things that I did, and not silly, but that's the wrong word for it, but it seems insignificant, but it turned out to be really significant, was I moved to black and white charts. And I found that like the red I was seeing in the candles and the green was triggering me quite a lot. If you'd read up on psychology, you have these kind of triggering elements. A huge fan of Steven Spielberg, right? And although I've never studied film or anything, I remember once reading this incredible book about how he used to trigger the audience in a kind of build-up process before the shark would attack in the first film, and you would go from the kind of benign kind of beiges, sandy colors, everything would be very neutral, then you'd build up into the yellows and the oranges, which would be that second stage. Then the music would come in the background, and then the red would come in. You would start to see these flecks of red on a beach towel, an umbrella, and then ultimately in the blood in the water after the shark attack, right? Now, the reason that's so relevant is because that psychology is one of those things that we want to keep. We want to understand ourselves to make ourselves better traders. So henceforth, why I don't really have many bright colors. Yeah, I use a very, very, very dull kind of pinky red here to show the liquidity. And apart from that, they're all pretty muted. Anyway, enough about me. So the other way you can do it if you're new to, this kind of concept is put your bearish gaps in red. Yeah, and then put your bullish gaps like this one here in green. All right. And I find that can just be a nice way. So when you kind of zoom in on the charts, you understand, you've got the context, right? And what do I mean by that? Well, actually, it's a good example, this, because when we're in this gap here, right, this bullish gap, right? Now, really, really simply, in here, you don't want to be shorting in here. So when you get into it here, long setups. When you get into here, long setups. When you get into it here, long setups, all right? The same with this. Now, although this didn't work particularly well, up here, good intraday short, another one here, another one here. Remember that, we're looking at this in the context of the 4-hour and the daily, okay? So it's all very, very relevant. Anyway, however you want to look at these gaps, when we close through them, violating them, right, we get this strong close through. What happens? We close above it. We take the liquidity, which is just a secondary point. The key thing here is the fact that this is closed above, meaning it's violated this area. Right, this is an area when you see these bullish gaps, like the green box, this is an area that when we retest it, as we showed on the lower time frames, we're favoring long setups. When we're in these areas here, we're favoring shorts. For example, how well this works here, yeah? However, when we invert them, they go purple. And this just means that this is like a classic resistance to support flip. And then look what happens, price draws into here. So once again, what can we do? Well, as we had yesterday, and actually we traded this live yesterday with members, and just unfortunately couldn't get an entry in here. Just one of those things. We tried the short from the top as well, and again, just couldn't get an entry. This was such an aggressive move up and down, but still it rings true, right? We've inverted this as we go into this new day. Longs favoring the beginning of the London session. Longs actually over lunch, this was something we looked at. Just I'm somebody that does kind of try and align my trading with, kill zones or volatility zones. This is the start of the pre-market for the New York Open, for example. I run this through then till 5 p.m. my time, which would be 4 p.m. UTC. Then we have our New York PM trading session. This here represents London, which I use a lot more for FX and equities. However, it goes to show you the alignment of time and price isn't always accurate, because look, we get this lunchtime pump here, and we've seen this a lot recently. And obviously we're in that kind of buying environment, right? Geo, my dear friend, how are you doing? In fact, the wonderful Geo, who's on here waving to us all, is one of our members over at the Bird Nest and made this incredible indicator for us all, which you get access to if you come and join us here. But it shows your New York midnight price, New York opening price. The red box shows us Asia's range, and the dotted lines down here, which are beautifully unobtrusive, which I love, as well as the name up here, the time frame and the day. It was all created by this man himself. What a talent. I don't believe he's a million miles away from me in age as well, which makes me incredibly jealous, because I am, well, my use with computers and technology should be answered to you all by the fact that you know that most of my notes are still taken on Post-it notes. While I sip my tea, I'm determined not to let this one go cold. Ozzy, hello, mate. And Mike as well. Sorry, buddy, I didn't see you pull in there. Do you think we'll pull back to the bearish back anytime soon? Greetings to you as well, my friend. Well, let's take a look at that, right? Just wanted to kind of explain this to you, because I think once you get on the high time frame, the context is really, really key. If you're looking anywhere on this chart, if you just go to somewhere completely random like we've done here, if we start here, it's quite simple. If we just allow our bullish gaps to support price and take us up, and then our bearish gaps and our gap inversions to let us know the other way. So if we follow this up here, what do? We react to our gap, which is internal liquidity. We then come and take out this high. All right. Then with this high, what do? We form two forms of liquidity here, or two forms to target liquidity. We follow this gap, right? But then, this is crypto as well. And even with like equity markets, for example, you don't always get these beautiful retests of these areas. That's fine. So you miss out here. So what do we do next? Well, quite simply, we set this beautiful bullish order block, right? Now you can see here what happens. Price comes up, retests here. This is our buying area. So we're just buying. That's all we're doing, right? And then you look across here, you've got another bullish gap, etc. Then what you look out for is when the market's starting to turn. Now you have all these consecutive up close candles here, right? But an early stage warning as we get into here is a very, very, very thin inversion, followed by the setting of a bearish gap, right? So when we set this, that's when you know the market's starting to turn. Now, you don't know how far, but what you want to do is you want to kind of calm your mind, and you want to say to yourself, right, the odds are that price is seeking liquidity below an old low. Where are these old lows? Well, by the time we set this candle, we have that there, which is a little less significant. I'll tell you for why, because it's an internal low set in here. It is, however, rebalancing a very small gap, which makes it a gap low, or for anybody that studied ICT, for example, would know it as intermediate term low. You then have this low here as well, which again is secondary because it's an internal one, and this one's external. So what do I mean when I'm talking about internal and external lows? And I want to clarify this quickly as well before we kind of really dive into some charts. Erica, our wonderful Erica, how are you doing? Brilliant to see you here, my friend. And I want to kind of just clear this up. I'm looking for external highs and lows, as well as external and internal liquidity. So that sounds a little bit confusing. Some are concepts that I learned later in my trading career, others are very early ones. So when I'm looking for a range, any kind of dealing range, what I'm looking for here is basically when price has taken liquidity, like we did from a low here, and then we take out a high, right? So let me just do this in a different color so it stands out. So what did we do here? We took out equal lows here, then we broke this high, showing that we have changed, that this is a market structure shift, right? So we're shifting the dynamic of the market. So what does that all add into? Well, quite simply, if this is the high of that, when this high is set and price breaks down, especially considering when it takes out that low, which again does what? It shifts structure from the upside and then shifts it to the downside. So we've again got that market structure shift, because we've got a higher high, higher low, lower high, lower low. This is a market structure break, okay? Look how significant these lines are for a retest, by the way. So Anyway, before I kind of jabber on too much, that for me then quite simply makes that, find another Larry color we can do that in, the external of the range, and that the external of the range, right? So here, when we're looking to target, yeah, we probably want to mitigate around these kind of lows, and actually price comes into this and really just rips straight down to this target, right? Again, look how significant that level becomes. Price finally closes below it. Look at the retest on the bodies, how it's just drawing up into this area, right? And again, up towards this. I don't think it actually quite gets to this order block here. So a bearish order block, by the way, is an up close candle. I take the flat of the bottom of the body, and then what we're doing is we're just chasing these ones down, yeah? So let me just get rid of all of this quickly and just show you this about order blocks, right? Because it's so important. If we're not looking for reactions at our gaps, then we're looking for our order blocks, right? Up close candles, defending price. Look, price sells off, retest, sells off again. Sets the order block when it closes below, retest, sells off again. We just target the nearest liquidity here. Then we wait for price to give us the next indication. Order block, closes below, retest, we're still sellers here, right? Even if we were just focusing on these order blocks, and look at this, right? This is a really interesting one because this gives you a signal here that you've closed above this order block, making it a bullish move. Then notice how price did not engage with one of our liquidity pools. That's our bearish FVG. So even when price closes above here, bear in mind we haven't changed structure here, right? So this is why we would still just be looking for that nearest point of liquidity. Look where it reaches for. Reaches for our gap. If there was a high up here and no gap, I would expect it to reach for that. And then lo and behold, what happens here? Bullish gap forms as we reach up. So, okay, so now we have some decisions to make in here, right? That's when price comes into here. If we see any of our buy models, then we look to long it up to this high and beyond. However, we invert it like we do here, and then we chase down to the next liquidity, right? And we actually took this little interim low here as well. So this is the point that you would really have your eyes kind of set on. However, we then take the highest of these gaps, or, you know, you can take multiple gaps here. If you took all of these three together, look what happens when we close above. Retest, and then price gets into a buy program here. Yeah, order block set, price takes off. Look, no retest. What happens? Price retests this, ultimately comes and takes out these highs. So I hope that doesn't just look like a load of lines on the chart for you guys, but these are the techniques that we're going to use to run through Altcoin Wednesday today, all right? Zach, hello, mate, and Joe as well. Let me take a sip of tea. Guys, hit me up. What are we looking at? What do we want to cover today? Let's have some alts. Excuse me. So just while we're kind of working through that, let me just get rid of the intraday bits and pieces because we don't need them now, do we? They should probably be in here. Beautiful. So where are we going now? Where's my targets? Well, I mean, it doesn't really look like there's a lot to stop price on the daily scale until 70,063. But I'm not saying that we just go straight there, right? Because price just very, very rarely works that way, as we all know. But no, that was our target from down here. Now, one of the things that we want to consider here is this really big down move here. Now, I don't really like using such large consecutive candles as an order block, yeah, because it's just such a big area. Of course, we've got to do Doge. Absolutely, my friend. Let's definitely do that. And Erica, definitely Mavia, for sure. Okay, so Doge, Mavia. I love that. Erica, you playing Mavia as well. I think Erica's been playing Mavia for a while and very well as well from what I know. So let's have a look on here. So where do we go? I mean, look, am I worried about all the stuff that's over here? Not really. If there was a massive gap, I'd probably be thinking, yeah, well, maybe it'd be nice to see that inverted. But ultimately, if we strip away all the noise, we focus on the market structure, we've gone from a high to a low. Now we've got a higher high. I think we're looking either this was the retest, right? Or I think we're kind of looking for price to come either back down to this region. One thing that I am looking at here is this big, beautiful bullish gap. Do I think we're going to come down and take this out? I'm not sure. I think price could just be too strong for it, right? But you better believe if we do, that this is where I'm going to be looking to put some big buying orders in, right? Because look, lower high, lower low, higher high, higher low, higher high. Right, that's the kind of market structure that we would really love to see here. But crypto especially often doesn't give you the bits that you want. OP, of course we can, Joe. No problem whatsoever. Right, so this is my target at the moment, right? We're up there. It does seem quite far away at the moment, but I can assure you when you're having candles that you get on this, like this monster here, yeah, what does this do? Is this the open of this was 62,839, yeah, and then the high was 66,634, right? So almost 4K. Yeah, we're really not even that far away here from 70. That same candle here that we saw on Monday, if we get that kind of thing today, I think we're going to be in and around the ballpark for sure. And that is a brilliant statement right there. Love it. Okay, so we're keeping it really simple, right? Let's just look at the 4 hour. We're going to actually, sorry, there's one other thing, right? It's just this area here that I'm looking at as well. Right, and I was looking at this and we got the most beautiful retest of it. Like I say, we just weren't able to get some entries, but that does happen. Close above, beautiful retest. Now we see that expansion, right? So even though this is a bit too big to be an order block, when you do get these areas, these levels can often tell you, yeah. So for example, we got a very small close above that here, then we change here, and then price works its way up, right? Now, when we close below this, one little trick that you can use here is we can use this order block, right? And we draw it out. Again, this is just what I do, okay? I take the flat of the body on the down close candles to the bottom of the wick, yeah, which is there. So there to there. And I look at the 50%. If we start closing below that, start to think that this thing isn't supporting it well enough, right? It can just mean that sometimes you're going to get those kind of failures, right? Like this, top to the bottom. See how price didn't even touch the midline, let alone close below it. It can just be one of those really, really nice ways to kind of look and say, okay, what is price doing? Another good example here. Just have a look at that. So where we get the down close candles here, the price makes it to the order block, the up close candles here make it our bearish order block, right? So you can see immediately price, I mean, you don't even have to draw it in, completely violates that straight away, a sign of weakness as price looks to head lower. This is a great question, Bernd, and one I ask myself every day. I'm a big I'm about to say big trader. It's not true. Always someone out there with much bigger size than me. But it's I'm a huge fan of the Nasdaq and the S&P 500. In fact, I only just changed them off of my chart to put INJ on there, where we were scalping this yesterday. But yeah, the way that I use them, mate, and sometimes the very best way to look at them. Gordon, our friend from Bedford, how are you doing, mate? I'm just going to leave this question up here for a few seconds, Ben, because for me, it's really important. There's a few things that are really important. I look at the DXY, right? The dollar index. I have this beautiful range that I've used for years and years and years on the dollar index that serves me really, really well. And what we typically want to see on the dollar index, which is just the US dollar weighted as a basket of currencies against a basket of other currencies that's heavier weighted towards the euro. So when you see a strong dollar, and again, not the case on Monday, we saw a strong dollar here and strong crypto, right? So again, nothing's ever 100%. What I'm trying to do with these assets is I'm trying to paint a picture of the risk markets. So where are the major players? What is their appetite for risk? I look at the US 2s, right? The US 10s, yeah, they're your bonds, all right? So as we look at them, you want to see them falling. You want to see them because they're like a flight to safety. When big investment groups are just feeling like the market conditions are uncertain, you'll see the money go into bonds, which have varying yields. Small returns for your money, but a very, very safe bet because you're buying US government debt or treasury debt. Same kind of thing, really. Then what I do is then I look at the equity markets like the Nasdaq right now. Nasdaq, obviously, we saw this really, really big sell-off yesterday. A little bit of a news catalyst, I think. These markets ultimately are at the mercy of a lot of news events as well. And we've had a very, very benign week. We don't actually have any real high impact news until next week. This, I think, took a lot of people by surprise. But ultimately, when you zoom out here on the Nasdaq, this thing has just been tearing faces, and this is coming in to test its all-time high again soon, in my opinion. We look at the S&P 500, and this bad boy has just been crushing it. Yeah, set a new all-time high here, here, big sell-off, set a new all-time high here, new all-time high here, and a new all-time high right here on Monday as well. So, yeah, it's just, well, actually said it kind of at the past end of last week if you're focusing on kind of highs and lows, but it's obviously set that high, taken that high again, and looks really, really strong. So there's a really good way to just get a little bit of a feel for the market's appetite for risk, whether you trade that asset class or not. But anyway, back to crypto for this wonderful degen crowd, right? So look at this candle, right? Don't forget about the candles, guys. Look at what the wicks are telling you. Yeah, look at these beautiful downside wicks. Look at this big upside wick reacting from a bearish gap. Should you be longing that? Probably not. Yeah, you're then saying to yourself, look, why has all that absorption happened? Why have so many people sold here? Can the bulls recover? Another bearish candle. My good friend Bast would always say this. Don't trust the first candle. Look for confirmation on the second candle, right? And absolutely right. Huge bullish engulfing candle here. Another big body bullish candle here. What do we look for then on Sunday? Pull back to a key level for us, and then we're buyers. All right. So long story short, daily 70,063 is the target. How can we use the 4 hour to support that? Let me just turn the session breaks off. Well, quite simply like this, right? What did we do before? We used exactly the same principles, right? Closed above this here, we look for the pullback, and then we look to long for the liquidity that's above. So now we've got a similar situation here as well. All the price action has been very balanced through here, yeah? So ultimately, again, this was that, that massive kind of order block that I said isn't really an order block, or I wouldn't consider it one. Because it was just such a big, long line of consecutive down close candles, it would basically make half your chart a gigantic bullish order block, right? But when we refined that, that was this level. Look what happened. Price closed above it, I would imagine here. Yeah, it would have done on Monday. And then Tuesday, we get that pullback. Look what happens. If we just overlay the time frames and you say to yourself, right, look, I'm looking for this level to be closed above. We get it. What do I want to see? I want to see a pullback. Where to? I don't want to see a pullback to the middle of nowhere. I want to see a pullback to an area that I want to be a buyer, which is a bullish gap. If we close below this gap, then I think we're heading for this gap or this low. Really is that simple as far as I see it. And I know it seems simple to me because I've done it for such a long time, and I'm always very conscious of that when I speak to you guys. But the reason that I say that it's simple is because you don't want to overcomplicate these things, all right? You really, really don't. And if you're struggling with trend, then for the love of God, come and grab yourself a membership with us over there, and you can just grab B-Pro. And B-Pro basically just does all this for you, right? So you've got the higher time frame trader here. Look what happened. Look where we've been bullish from with B-Pro here, yeah? This was the expansion candle that happened on Friday, October the 11th. And then from the following candle, yeah, that's where we've been bullish. Now, lo and behold, if we overlay the same systems, so B-Pro's gone bullish here, what else have we done here? You could wait until we reclaim this, right? Wait until we reclaim this, the moving average. This is really, really good proxy, right? Because, and actually a dear friend of mine, QBS Graphics, so sorry, just finish this point quickly. The thinner gray line underneath shows us when we're bullish, yeah? And the thin black line above shows us when we're bearish, yeah? So what we're doing here is, we're waiting for this area to reclaim. So we go bullish here. We can just do the same thing, right? We just wait for our gaps. So be patient. And what happens, we don't only dip into this gap, we actually get support here by the moving average as well. Price moves up. Why were we really heavily favoring longs here? Well, quite simply because price comes back in to test the trailer. Yeah. So I don't think many people do this better than QBS actually. And you can find him, QBS Graphics. I think if I get rid of that, it's going to, there we go. So look, simply you've got the moving average moving through here if you're a moving average user. And he has the most beautifully clean system for trading this, right? Obviously, CryptoBird, this is his indicator, right? It was built for him, and it is incredibly powerful. There's loads more you can do with it as well. I really don't kind of show this off enough on streams. I'm not particularly good at that. I know I should be better, really, because it's not about shilling stuff. It's about making your lives better for this, all right? But look at all these different settings on here, right? You've got it so that you can have all of the different colors change on the candles, right? Where they come in, you can have the VWAP line, baseline pivots, you get buy and sell signals, you can build it all in your divergence system as well. But basically, think of it like this. If you're struggling with trends, something like this can be really helpful. So we turn bullish here. This is the high time frame trailer as well, which gives you a broader concept, and you can set that whatever you want, daily, weekly, etc. However, we can see that we move away from that into a bullish trend here. Now, this is the current time frame trailer, the 4 hour, which I'm really interested in. Look how this baseline here, the moving average, offers support. Now, the standard colors for this will stand out a lot more, right? Because they're this beautiful black and orange, which is very visceral. I do it in gray because I'm, pretty boring and old, especially, well, for relative to this industry. But I don't like, as I said earlier, obtrusive colors. But basically, what Cuba does is he just says, right, look, quite simply, when we return to the trailer, I'm just a buyer here, yeah? And then I know where I'm wrong. So he bought here, he bought here, he bought here. So what happened here? Oh, we turned bearish. So he sells here, right? Comes up into this area here, sells here. Then what happens? We flip bullish. So he's a buyer here. He's a buyer here, right? And now look, he's just been absolutely killing it. So this is something I want to show to you guys more, because this indicator used to cost, $1,200 a year or something like that, right? And actually, as an investment, in my opinion, it really was a no-brainer. But you now get it for free with a $99 membership. So if that is something you're interested in, I'm sure there's some information down in the description about how you guys can get involved. There'll be a WAP link down there or something. If there's not, do reach out to me and let me know. But a really, really good way to just remove that anxiety, right? So just to show you this here, when we turn bullish on Bitcoin is right there. So now I'm going to turn this off, right? Or actually what we can do is we can show this working on a lower time frame as well, right? So quite simply, and I'm just going to put my session breaks on here. For anybody that doesn't know how to do that, you can do it by going to your settings, going to events, and then session breaks, and you'll see these day dividers come up, yeah? So what I'm doing here is, remember, from this line, this green line, we are bullish. So all we are looking to do, we're looking for price to return to our trailer to give us some kind of bullish either structure shift or buying opportunity, and that's when we're going to step in. Now, what I would do here is I would actually turn the baseline off for this time frame. So here we are. What day is this? So we go into, well, first of all, this day here gives us a really good open here to get involved, right? And price just really, really rips. So as we come into this day here, what are we doing? Well, for me, I'm looking for afternoon trades here. So we come into the morning session, we break market structure here. Yeah, so let's just do it on that. Let's just do it based on market structure shifts, breaks, and reactions from gaps. There's our gap, yeah? Here's also the shift in market structure. So price has already come up into here. We've swept a low from here. We break out, so you can be a buyer in here. So you probably make some money there. We then come into this day. What are we doing? No structure break, no structure break. We reclaim the trailer here, right? We break structure here. There's our bullish gap. We're a buyer in here. And ultimately, that was a really, really, really good day. So on and so forth. You're never, ever going to win them all. Never. But again, look, structure break here. Price comes in, where do we land? We've got a gap here, we've got a gap down here that we don't quite reach, but look, so on and so forth. What I would say is just, if you're struggling with trend and stuff like that, this can just be a really, really, really good way to kind of keep you on with it, because so many people I've seen recently are saying like, oh my God, you know what, I thought we were going up here, but things were looking really bearish, or there was so much bearish sentiment going around, blah, 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 blah. It's good sometimes to just step away from that noise. Anyway, let's dive into charts. If you guys have got any others, we've only got 3 to check at the moment. So Doge, Mavia, and OP. So let's start with Doge. I'm going to take a sip of tea before this thing goes completely ice cold. Brilliant. I get to immediately know I get to sound like a broken record here. So this will be October the 3rd, this low. Do you know how I know that? Because we had so many divergences between altcoins and Bitcoin. Just do that in light blue so it stands out. That means that Bitcoin, price action on Bitcoin actually took out this low. Right? So it came down, swept the low, and then went up. Well, as we see here on alts, it did not. Meaning that these probably have a little bit more strength relative, which could mean that we're seeing that transition now, you know, into this kind of alt season that we've been looking for. But broken record time anyway. Here's the inversion. That, when it closed above here, that was our signal for go time. Basically, we're looking for price to draw into here, and then we're looking for buyers in here, ultimately up to this high, but also watching how price reacts through this gap. Because while it looks like price is about to rip through this at the moment, and I believe it probably will, until we have a daily close above it, that is still a bearish gap. However, I'm less interested by this gap now because we have broken market structure, right? So lower low, lower high, higher low. This is now our higher high. So my expectation now is for either price to really run in and take this out, or when we close this and the next candle, maybe we get a gap here and then price comes to take that out. Ultimately, let's say this does turn into our bullish gap here, but price never actually kind of takes that high. What happens is price comes down and closes below it here. This gap inverts, same as this one did. And then we look for the next liquidity lower and we say, okay, price maybe needs to take some more fuel lower down, yeah, before it then resumes the upside. And then if we break structure again, then ultimately we flip our bias and we're looking shorter. But for now, this is looking really nice. And we don't have a gap in there. So what we're saying is, okay, let's get some context from the 4-hour chart. Sorry if you can hear some huffing and puffing. My beautiful husky is in with me today and making some hilarious noises. So what are we looking for here? And again, look, remember what we talked about earlier. Gaps, market structure, highs, lows, order blocks. So we're bullish here. And why would we be bullish here? Well, we've just said we're bullish on the daily. We've had this inversion. What's structure doing? Higher highs, higher lows, right? So, you know, move that away from there. And yes, it doesn't always look like what you see in textbooks, which are these beautifully clean, you know, equidistant things like that. But they're only indicative, right? Obviously, real price action doesn't move exactly in that way. But just first thing you should ask yourself is, okay, market structure. The next thing you ask yourself is, why have we got this red line up here? Not here, not here, not here. Well, quite simply because this is the daily level. So we have to believe that institutions, major players, are using the higher time frames, right? They're not running in and out on these 1-minute charts, degenning it around like I am, right? And not just that, 5-minute charts, 50-minute charts, etc. They're taking positional plays from key highs and lows, right? And if you ever wondered or doubted that, you know, open a daily chart or a weekly chart. Remember what I told you about external and internal liquidity, right? Actually, daily on Doge because of the amount of action we've got. Just remember, when you're looking at key highs and key lows from a range, yeah? So what happened? Remember we were doing this exercise earlier. We were talking about the idea that liquidity is taken on one side. We did it in our nice, big, bright blue. Yeah, liquidity is taken on one side. Then when ultimately you take liquidity from the external range there, yeah, for me, that's liquidity been taken here. We have a breakdown there. This was our break of structure in this respect. This was the breakdown of structure in this respect. This area becomes a range, yeah? So we're looking what happens at the highs and the lows of this range. Now, obviously, we're not up towards this high now, but that's just giving you an example where if we look at what happened here, right, it doesn't look like a great example here because the bearish price action was so much, but on a weekly scale, once we ran this low here, to where this correction stopped was 7.7%, right? That's a massive trade in there, or a number of intraday trades until when we close below showing weakness, we take out these highs, and then price sells off aggressively. So if we're looking at that, this for me is always indicative of you know, institutional order flow here. Price being taken from the extremes, like it was here. There's the external of the range, there's the other external of the range. When we interact with that of it, look at the expansion that we have. This move, in fact, was even bigger, even if we allow it from when it was recovered to the top. That's 38%, right? Henceforth, why are we using higher time frames to set our bias and what we're looking for in terms of targets? We then want to refine this on the lower time frames and then kind of move up. Apologies, guys, just had to sneeze. I wanted to save you all that displeasure. Now, one of the difficult things here, right, is being patient enough to wait for this, right? Because you retested the inversion. That means you can be a buyer here, yeah? And where would we consider being a buyer here from? Well, quite simply, you've got this order block down here, which was already retested and price went up again. So confluence, right? Confluence meaning that we're overlaying things that give us an indication of where we want to go in the market. We're saying, okay, we've inverted this. This whole area here should now be acting as support, right? Now what we've done is we've come in, we've swept a low here, we've set this order block, retested this order block, and come up to here. So, okay, let's forget all of that. We've seen all of that happen. So where do we want to be a buyer again? Within this area, but not just blind. We want to be looking for a key interaction. We've got that order block there. And we ultimately have this order block here as well, which even in itself had a beautiful little close above and then a retest here, and price just absolutely flew. See how the bodies just couldn't close below this. So now we have these to consider as well. Close above, retest, and price has flown. So on a 4-hour scale, we could be looking down to around about here as well. Now, that's a lot of lines on the chart. Raz, my man. This guy is the crusher of Doge. In fact, excuse me, is currently in an absolute belter of a long position for our members, which I'm going to see if I can just grab up really quickly for you. Another absolute ripper from this Chad. Where is he? Here we go. All right. So just a very quick sneak peek for you all. There you go. Crusher of Doge, this boy. And this is it, all available for members, right? As you can see here, right? Everything written, call title, Doge, USD, swing long update, TP1 hit. As you scroll back through all of these absolute belters, right? Look at them. Yeah, this is only going back a couple of days. These have all been absolute face melting positions, right? Jay as well been crushing it. Pitt as well. Jesus, I mean, with these trades as well, it really has been going off, guys. You know, you can find information in the description below. $99 a month, I think, to have access to all those calls, all the education, absolutely everything is just giving it away. And the fact that you can get the B Pro indicator as well, just, I mean, look, I shouldn't need to shill this to you guys. I'm not a shiller. We're not a shilling community. You know, we're one of the very best education and trading communities out there. I think we did something like 300% last month in profit for our members, right? Average member. Anyway, how do I want to refine this? Because this really isn't telling me a lot, yeah? So as it's coming back down today, right, then am I really going to wait for this to come all the way back down to here? Probably not. If it does, I'll be super interested, but not really kind of looking at that. So now I want to move to a 15-minute and say, okay, well, where else can we be looking for longs? Let's just keep it really simple, shall we? Here's the order block, hasn't been retested yet. Here's a big bullish gap that we've got. That is being tested currently, so favoring long setups. However, price has kind of had this move down into here. So what do we want to see? Well, let's look at it like this, right? We haven't closed below any up close candle apart from this one, right? But look, when we close below this very small one. Now, the reason that I don't consider this, apologies if you can hear some noise, by the way, guys, we've got full disclosure, the cleaners are in downstairs. So before you can consider this order block, for me, I'm saying, is this one in the range of a larger order block? Look at these two consecutive up close candles. For me, that's the kind of key area here. I'd want to see a close below this, and then I would think that we're moving down towards this low, this gap, etc. Now, if I want a little bit more confirmation here, yeah, then quite simply, I can move this onto a lower time frame and just watch for these structure recoveries. All right, so I'm going to say something like a 3-minute. What do we want to see? Well, quite simply, you want to see a low swept. Yeah, we had a very, 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 very mild sweep of that low, which we can see, I think, if we move it onto there. Maybe it was equal, actually. Low of that was 12,477, 12,477. So no sweep there. So what else do we want to see? Well, you want to see resistance turn support, right? So we can say, all right, where we're looking at here, this is the high. We've set equal lows down here. Let's see some establishment above this high, or even better, let's inverse this. That's a big bearish gap at the moment, and we can see that this is what's capping the market. Resistance, resistance, resistance. Close above this, intraday trades into this gap high over here at 0.12749. And then ultimately what you've done is you've built yourself, so say we get in up here, just for argument's sake, we get this nice close, inversing it above here. This is our entry. Stop loss below the swing low. Target 1 is here. Target 2 is here. And then ultimately, we know where we're holding for all the way up here. Just allows us to kind of scalp our way almost into a swing trade, right? So that's how I'd be looking at it. That's how I'd be kind of bringing these time frames together. So with that, let's look at Mavia. Let's take a look at this. Good Lord, this thing, when this runs, this is just going to be a monster, I think. Yeah, that's really, really interesting, that actually. Wow, that is so clean. That is so very clean. I mean, obviously, there's always an argument that you can just go higher, right? But again, look what happened here at the intersection. Yeah, we kind of had that dip back, but actually price broke out. See how it kind of then hugs these areas for confirmation, takes this low. Then when we recover this again, it's kind of the initial start of that. It's very, very steep, that line though, right? So you need to be careful with those. But this looks so clean. So Mavia, immediately, what I'm thinking here is two things. One, nice gap inversion here. We just want to see that hold, close back below this, and I think we come down for this gap low or ITL, right? Ultimately, liquidity resting below that is down here as well. I think, depending on what type of trader you are, then there's always the opportunity to wait for this area to be reclaimed, and then something like this, right? Wait for that kind of structural shift, and then that's where you can be a buyer. But yeah, at the moment I like this. It's holding this area quite well. We also need to realize that we come down here to re-engage with this bullish gap, which we hadn't so far. So that looks like it's holding quite nicely as well. So now as we overlay that, we can see the support here. Another thing we can do is look at this as a range here, because this has swept liquidity and shifted structure. So the low to the high of that there has had a beautiful 50% retrace. Yeah, golden pocket sat down here. Now this is interesting as well, because that golden pocket, we have obviously closed above this and retested this order block as well. But the fact that the top of that order block there sits atop the golden pocket, not relevant when this candle was here, by the way, because it would have been down here somewhere. But now we've had that extension, price kind of working its way up to this gap. I can't really see where else it would really be trying for, unless this is a lower high and then we're coming down to set a lower low. But we don't know that yet, and we shouldn't be too speculative in these markets, right? We want to always have what we see in front of us. Yes, and a big shout out to Arsham as well, to just make sure the little dude is recovering well in hospital. So as we've got this reaction here, this is where we really want to be a buyer, right? So, okay, let's follow suit. What else are we looking for here? Well, confirmation on this, which is quite a tricky one actually, but we have this. Now, remember earlier I said to you about taking these, ignoring these smaller singular candles, right? For example, this here, that candle there. See this up close candle? It's that I'm interested in as a bearish order block. I'm just going to delete these, right? Right, so the flat body, why not this one? Remember, because this candle here is within the range of this body. This body overlaps that on all sides, right? If we were to draw it as a box, yeah, see how it overlaps it all, and it would be a bearish order block. So we'll just do it in red so nobody gets confused. Close below it, retest, sells off to this liquidity. Why am I jabbering on about that again? Well, quite simply because I want to show you the subtlety and difference of this, which is this candle here, right? So this up close candle, when we close below it here, my expectation is for that low to get taken out. But BC, that tiny candle there is in the range of all of these. And this is where a little bit of nuance comes in, right? I'm never going to consider that an order block. It would be half the bloody screen. Remember, like we were talking about on the daily. Same way with these as well, right? If you get this candle here that's set within that range, yes, we close below it there and we get faked out, but I would still consider that, yeah? Same with this one. As we just showed, retest of this, chase it down to that liquidity. Then when we close below this one here, close below it here, retest short. Ultimately, this one fails, but as we get back above this, yeah, look what happens. Close above, retest, and away we go, okay? So anyway, the reason that I'm looking at this is because I want down close candles here, yeah? But just to give the example of that, I would still consider a bearish order block there just because this is too big. Yeah, it's too big. So Down close candles. I just want to see price close above this. Then I think we just unashamedly just rip to these highs, which are at 1.6983. Very, very simple plan. Probably don't even need to go to the 15-minute because I think I would want 4-hour confirmation on that. Although I say that and I look at this 15-minute chart and it just makes me want to long the living daylights out of it, unfortunately from a little bit lower down here, right? So again, we had this, what do we talk about, right? Waiting for the sweep, seeing the structure break happen here, or the structure shift, right? The high, lower, low. So lower high, lower low, higher high, higher low. Oh my God, higher low set within a 15-minute FVG. Where the hell was I 50 minutes ago? I clearly should have been on the Mavia chart. Eric, I blame you entirely for not bringing this to my attention. I don't really, obviously. But then in here, I'm saying, right, then how am I going to be a player in here? Quite simply, it's a beautiful trade. One of my favorite setups, which is where you're looking for a low to be swept. And I like this low here, but it could have been that low or that low. Then where's the higher that took the low? Yeah, the higher that took the low, the start of that move here, that becomes our breaker line, because you've got a breaker candle in here as well, which I'll draw in. I always used to simplify. I used to teach this method to people, to students, for example, a very, very simple and easy method to get you look for the obvious high that has swept liquidity from the low. You wait for a close above it, look at that momentum. And then when you close above it, you set a limit order on here. You set your stops below the swing low, and then you basically target a clear and obvious high, which is this one, right? Which we're coming up into now for a nice 1.69R. However, this is also a breaker candle, right? See these up close candles here. Move that back there. You see these up close candles here that lead to the sweep. Well, that's a breaker candle, right? This is another great example of a breaker candle. I've always found these work really, really well in crypto, right? So what do you get here? Breaker candle comes up, you get this little slither of a close above it, yeah? So you set your limit order on this line, you get triggered in here, and price sells up to the top, yeah? The key is finding those up close candles before an obvious sweep on liquidity, then look for that strong break, look, 2 big bullish candles, set the limit order, and ultimately you can then chase it higher. What I would always say with this is, like with anything, is don't do yourself a disservice. Make your targets on the 15-minute if you're trading a lower time frame chart, or you will miss a lot, okay? But as for now, get rid of this for a minute, clear this all up. What am I looking for on the 15-minute? Well, I think that if we're going to get some progress here, then I like this. I like this a lot. We just created this bullish gap. We've left a failure swing here, not a swing failure. The swing failure would be price taking that and then breaking down, right? This is a failure swing, meaning we've now left equal highs up here, all right? Well, we will have done when this candle closes in 4 minutes, 58 seconds. So then I love a move into this and then back up. Super simple. That's my play for Doge today. If I'm taking it low time frame and degenning it, if we run up from here and we don't get that pullback, then I'd question it again, because I'd want some kind of reaction here, to an order block or something like that. We need to also realize, look at this, the confluence. We've got this untested order block in here as well. So a great place to be a buyer. But again, wait for those buy models to kick in, right? Look for something like this on the lower time frame. Yeah, you don't want to guess about this. I watched, very, very fortunate to spend some time in Singapore recently with a load of legends, and one of them was a chap called Follis, who I'm sure you all know, who's just an incredible trader and just a wonderful human being. Really blessed to have spent some time with him. And, we were just talking markets for hours and hours, as we were with everyone out there, which was just awesome. And I saw one of his videos a little while ago that he had pinned, and it's so true. He's talking about price being in this really kind of like aggressive downtrend like this, yeah, but on a higher time frame. So just imagine this, and he's saying, well, okay, where are you trying to long? Yeah, you're trying to long, this. Okay, that fails on you, and you get taken out. Okay, so then you're trying to long this, right, and then that fails, and then you're trying to long this, and that fails. Or if you just want to be patient about it, you wait for that move down, you wait for that movement in structure. Yeah, then you look to see price build a base, get back into a bullish structure, and then you're getting involved in something that the trend is on your side, right? And again, this is where we can bring in B-Pro as well. So look, B-Pro's turned bullish here, right, on this candle expansion. So this is saying to me now, okay, Let's look for something like that in and around here. And we can also use this as well for targeting purposes, right? So, aligning this with the moving average that's coming down here. And all of a sudden, we've got a great place here where we can mitigate our risk, all right? So anyway, that's my thoughts on Mavia, and we're going to finish up here on OP. Thank God we only got 3 today, right, by the way. I've been talking so much, barely got through those. So let's take a look at OP here as well, shall we? So on the daily. Joe, thank you very much, my friend. Always a pleasure to see you. Have a fantastic week ahead, yeah, and we'll catch you out there in the trenches. So look, higher time frame on this at the moment on the daily. I think we've only got this time frame because this high time frame is set to the same one on here. So we're still a little bit bearish here on OP. Yeah, we had this beautiful recovery of it down here, got us into these nice long positions, flipped short here, and then got some nice shorts. However, we can see we've kind of moved away from that master trend for a while. This is what you're going to see when the bull run really kicks in my opinion. You never lose this. You just don't lose the daily trailer. It's just such a monster. Anyway, I will put this back on for the 4-hour guys as well, so you get some insights. And we're really considering kind of, choosing some of our key assets that we have. And I'll run through this with you as well in a moment on the website, because we got these brilliant screeners and everything that are available for free for all of you guys. So remind me, let me just pop this on here, website, just before we shut the show down after the TA on this, because it'll be super, super valuable. Suleiman K, my man, how the devil are you? Apologies as well if anybody else has come in the chat, or if I'm not able to see your chat for some reason with this streaming software we use. It's just not always possible. Burned as well. Sorry, mate. I know I'm ripping up everyone's time today, but thank you all so much. Now, something you don't see from me very often, but if I see some support and resistance that just seems super, super obvious to me, I will absolutely draw it in. And something that kind of sits quite well with me here is this. Right, now you could argue that you could make that a really neat channel as well. It's a little bit kind of expanding here, but look at those. I really, really like that. And actually, what I'm going to do is delete that one, and I'm going to make this a channel. Anchor it there, put it through to here. Take that down to there. How is that? It's actually really not bad. It's a little bit sharp, right? But you've got deviation, reclaim, pipe runs. Can't even speak today. Price pumps to the midline, retest, midline holds the mid, pumps to the high, sells off, deviation, comes back inside, a little bit of a sneaky kind of over and under. Now it's holding this level again. And once more, we just kind of, align these bullish things that we've got here. So first of all, we've got a gap inversion there, which is massive. Then we've got this big bullish gap we've reacted to here. You can see how the market's starting to support the bullish narrative here. And actually, now we've closed this gap in here, we have this other inversion, which should be offering us support. And we can see it currently is, which is beautiful, right? You then look at your order blocks and you say, look, how have you not been bullish on this, you crazy, crazy human? I really need to make more time for charting, right? I really, really do. I'm so obsessed with my intraday trading at the moment. And to be honest, I just have the most blessed life. Not to sort of say that in a way, because it's difficult. We travel a lot. We work absolutely unbelievable hours, sometimes 16 plus hours a day. But you know what? I've had the chance to travel so much with TBN, my dear friend, my brother, Crypto Bird. Those guys have become family to me over the years. But we must never lose sight of who we are. And because of it, my swing trading has suffered quite a lot. And I get to cover this with you guys on this session, which I love. But I talk myself into these, and I'm just like, you idiot! Why weren't you just up like crazy? We had this divergence third to the 10th, which we were talking about before. Anyway. It is what it is, right? But one thing I just want to look at here actually is if we put our divergence back on, I wonder if we had one. Yeah, look at the divergences here, guys. How powerful these are. I know this thing looks like an absolute joke at the moment. I've got so many lines and that on it, which you very rarely see from my chart. So let's just turn that off. And that off just for a moment and calm the chart down a little bit, right? Look at these divergences here. Yeah, that led you to that sell-off. Look at the divergence here that led you into that buy, right? These corrective moves here, that buy there. I mean, it is pretty crazy. And I think I'm just really talking myself into just doing a lot more swing trading, by the way. Anyway, before I get too distracted, let's finish up our TA. So we can see why we're bullish here, right? So what the other thing that's really important is once we kind of take all of this away and we say to ourselves, okay, well, what if we're wrong here? Well, quite simply, we just wait for price to give us that indication. So here's the up close candle. Yeah, it's not in the range of these because it's extended beyond the bodies. So I would just need to see price close below that. And then my assumption would be that price is coming down for this low and possibly a retest of this again. You know, what's to stop price doing that? What's to stop price coming from here? Look, high, higher low, higher high, comes in here to set a higher low. What I love about these moves as well is people will be aware of this trend line, this slope trend line. And, you know, people do have a tendency to panic, especially to the downside, right? People just puke their positions here, which just makes this big pool of sell orders that buyers can just gobble up for really cheap on the funding rates, really, really cheap in respects of making sure they get their orders filled without slippage, and then this thing just absolutely moons. So that's where I am with that. Okay. Let's take this down onto a 4 hour now, but just to move that down onto a 4 hour, we know what we've got to get. We know what we've got in there. So let's just save this as some live show banter. So that was live on the 16th of the 10th. Really should put the date on there as well, but to be honest, you know, the year, sorry. Now, we're bullish here, right? No question. So what do we need to see from the 4 hour to back this up? Let's see how we kind of want to move between these time frames. This is an interesting one. No, that candle for me is within the range of the larger one, so it's important that we respect this. I want to see price close above here on a 4 hour scale, giving us that bullish order block. However, look how well price is respecting this bullish gap. Yeah, this is just unbelievable. Bullish gap, price holding in here. Now, if you want any more, this is where you really wanted to be a buyer. I know this was kind of late. This is late for today because this was yesterday's price action, right? But look, you know, these long downside wicks showing you absorption. This was that big, ugly move on Tuesday, right? That took liquidity from the high, took liquidity from the low. Price now grinding up. But I really like this here. I would just like to see a 4 hour close above here. And then I don't see anything being able to stop price until we get to there, which is 1.819. I will just very quickly look at the 15-minute as well, just for a little bit more context. Now, what we want to see here, look, we would have waited for this move. Look what a perfect order block close and retest that was. Close above, retest, boom, we're off. Now, if we want early indications of this strength is going to hold, we have this slither of a bullish gap here. And it wouldn't surprise me to see us come a little bit deeper to kind of maybe retest deeper into this area and ultimately look at this bullish gap here as well. So, you know, charts look to be setting up really, really nicely again today, guys. So I'm really looking forward to it. 10 minutes and counting, and we'll be in our live trading session with members as well. So for those of you that are on here, please do head across to that. I just want to show you one last thing, which is just available for you all on the website because it's a great free resource. Now, I understand not everybody has the ability to pay, you know, $99 a month. We have, you know, we've taken that down by about 66% for what we used to charge. Bearing in mind, we would have upwards of sort of 40,000 to 50,000 members, right? Not all paying, all on different deals, agreements, right? But we've consolidated now, brought the price right down because we want to make it accessible for people. When the market conditions turned 2 months ago, we gave everybody free access for 60 days, right? Everybody. It's been absolutely wonderful having everybody back in there. But if you don't have the ability, or you don't have the resources for that, then please go and make the most of our website, right? If you go over to there, theburbnest.com, right? I'll put it in the chat here so you've all got it. Please go over there. Look, just go on to tools. Yeah, you can see on here, breadth charts. What do these tell us? Every single day, you get an insight into 200-day simple moving average, 50-day and 20-day. Look at the uptrend here, right? Look at how you can see more and more coins getting above their 50-day average. Look, when you start to see this big decline here, this got us into the real start of that big bear market. And now you can see the rounded recovery that's being made. Then we look at the 50. Obviously, 200 days, our longest moving average. Then the 50-day. Look at the uptick here. Higher, 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 higher. Pullback, but then since then, just setting higher highs. Beautiful. You wait for that increase there. And this here is the 20-day, which is the shortest. So look, these sharp inclines here, then you see them starting to lessen. That's where you risk off a little bit. And then when you see this recovery happen here and here, that's when you really put the pedal to the metal. Then you go on our crypto screener, and what did we say? And you know what? I'm so proud of this, but I can't remember the name of the bloody ticker. It was a new one to me. It began with E. This one, right? Look at this one, up 10%, right? 10% this week since we called this on Monday. And why did we call that? Bloody lost it again. No, hang on. And why did we call that? Baby Doge as well. Brilliant. We called this because of the screener. Why? Because the weekly and the daily were both bullish and the 4-hour was bearish. What does that mean? Well, the same on Baby Doge at the moment, up 8%. Well, it means the higher time frames are bullish, but the lower time frame, the 4-hour, was bearish, meaning that's probably the pullback, the dip that we want to buy. Yeah, we wanted to buy the dip on Baby Doge. We bought the dip on Baby Doge on IEGEN as well, right? TRX, these were all there for the taking, right? TRX hasn't run hot, but it's still up 1%. Those other ones are up like 10+%. So obviously, you know, use that as you will. AVAX looking really hot, up 3.6%. Again, all of these assets are very, very strong across the board. XRP is not. XRP's higher time frame is still bearish, and we're looking for that bullish pullback to potentially short it further, right? But we don't really want to be shorting stuff in this environment. WIF, for example, as well, WIF, 8.6% made this week for members, right? SUI, 5.6% made for members. Just go on here and use this to give you an overview of the market. We've got the economic calendar on there, so you can go and look at the key high impact news hitting the American markets, which then ultimately determine the market's risk appetite overall. Then you've got crypto heat map, which I love, just a snapshot of the crypto market that just tells you, hello, Bitcoin's gobbling up the progress today, then ETH matched behind it. And then within here, you've got quite a mixed bag. And I love that because of the kind of mixture of red in here. This is telling me they're all buying opportunities, right? So that's what I want to go into. Looking at NEAR, looking at Aptos, Avalanche, right? AVAX, we just covered that. Pulling back today, is there an opportunity there to be a buyer? OP that we just covered on the stream as well, right? You can go in here, it pops you into TradingView, gives you all the information. Brilliantly built from our dear friend Razoon again, that talented little bugger. And then the stock market heat map, yeah? So you can put it across the S&P 500. We can see we've got a mixed bag. Nvidia, which has been propping up the risk markets for a long time on the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ today, is down quite a lot. Is that a buying opportunity? I think it very well could be, all right? But this kind of gives you a little bit of an unclear ratio. You know, you're seeing here, you're seeing a lot of indecision, right? You're seeing mixture of reds, mixture of greens, but you can change that as well on here. You can go, say, to the NASDAQ, for example, which is more tech-based. Then you say, okay, well, we see here probably a bit more red than green, right? So let's go back onto our chart just very quickly and say, okay, so look, this was, where were we here? Monday, yeah? So what do? We waited for the pullback. Look, this couldn't have been any better, right? So Monday 14th, what did we say? We looked for that pullback here. We could have been a buyer here. Great trade. Buyer here. We're still long. Buyer here. Still long. Buyer here, right? Every day we got a great opportunity on that, just looking for simple TA, structure recoveries, and our crypto screener, right? But what I just wanted to do, oh, sorry, I haven't changed the chart, have I? So sorry, on this one on OP, right? You know, so Monday is when it told us with the screener to watch for this pullback. Yeah. We then come into Tuesday. What do we get? The big dip. Midday, buyers here, buyers here. And then as we come into Wednesday here, same time period, buyers here as well, right? Just looking at the screener, you guys have access to all of that for free. But I just want to very quickly finish up on the NASDAQ because it's telling us, you know, from the crypto heat map, from the NASDAQ heat map, for the stocks, that we want to be cautious here. And what a brilliant indication this is. Price drawing up to fill this big bullish gap here, big bearish gap, sorry, before potentially more downside. We've got this key support resistance level here that's just been an absolute winner at 19,903. Now, ideally, we want to see the risk markets doing well, right? But always zoom out. These things, like, you know, like anything, in my opinion, this pays a lot more attention to the daily than anything else. And what we can see here is we have a big, beautiful order block down here. Okay, this one here as well, but I'd probably be a bit more focused on this price coming into this area and then recovering. All right, guys. So please do go and check out the website. Make the most of all the free proven resources you have out there. If you're interested to come and join us, please do. You can find all that information in the description. And just another big shout out to our partners over at Bitget. All right, go and grab yourself a Bitget account. Fantastic to trade with. We work very closely with the team over there who have improved basically every element of their UX, not to mention their liquidity. You know, liquidity is a big problem for, you know, competing exchanges, and these guys have it to the point I can intraday scalp 1 minute charts on most of their assets, which is really, really impressive. And all I would say, just go and grab your $100 UST, go and put it in there. There's great calls that you can find access to. You can come and hit me up on Twitter and see some of our calls that we've got on there. We'll share you all the information for the free Telegram as well. And then just go and have a play around with it. Even if you just risk the $20 that they give you for free, seems like a bit of a no-brainer to me. All right, but make sure you use the code and you get it down in the description, or you won't get your free $20. All right, legends. Thank you so much for being present again today. I really hope it's been good for you. For members, please give me a couple of minutes. I really need to go and make a cup of tea. So we'll kick off today's session at 1:20, which is in about 8 minutes time. And we are going to find ourselves some opportunities to scalp and add to the 54R that we've already built this year. All right, guys, girls, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a real pleasure. I look forward to seeing you all next week. I'll be live again on Monday and Wednesday, and also over at the Nest with all our fantastic members. Have a great week.